It is a big day here in Washington, D.C. because the Supreme Court is listening to two separate cases, one from West Virginia and one from Idaho, about protecting women in women's sports. This is a really big ask that the Supreme Court has taken up. The ACLU is asking them to change the definition legally of biological sex, not to be defined by chromosomes or any of the actual biological terms that we've agreed upon over the past several, millennia of human history, but instead to define biology by your circulating levels of testosterone, which is crazy, obviously. West Virginia and Idaho both have pending cases before the Supreme Court to keep men biologically out of women's sports. And as you can see behind me here on the steps of the Supreme Court, there is a massive crowd of people wanting to protect our daughters. I have brought my daughter Isla here with me to show our support for organizations like our friends at XXXY, our friends like Riley Gaines, professional athletes, collegiate athletes, moms, and so many others that are just trying to protect women's spaces for the next generation. Can't wait to bring you guys along with us. How are you this morning? I'm so proud of you today. Smile!
I could just, the cute aggression is so real.
Oh my gosh, you're so cute.
Yesterday, when she came into town, I had the chance to sit down with our amazing friend Jennifer Sey, who is the founder of XXXY. You're seeing a lot of these hoodies all over the crowd, which is super exciting, to talk about exactly what these cases mean and what the continued fight to preserve women's only spaces is going to look like for our daughters. Let's check it out. Jen, I'm so excited to have you in my neck of the woods here in DC. I, too, am a Colorado girl, so it's always fun when I get to spend some time with you. But we are here this week because there are some huge cases going before the Supreme Court of the United States about protecting women in women's sports. You are the founder of XXXY, one of the leading advocacy groups on this issue. And I'm so excited to pick your brain a little bit because I think people keep asking me over and over again, why are we still talking about this? Right. Isn't this issue moved on? Hasn't the president already dealt with this as one of the first things that he did in office, which is true, but it's now before the Supreme Court of the United States, and in places like Colorado, still such an important issue for young families. So where are we right now as a country on this issue?
It's complicated. I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can. On February 5th last year, Trump did sign an executive order. It was one of the first that he signed, protecting women's sports. I was there. It was an awesome day, but everybody needs to know an executive order is not law. So the next president could change it. And lots of states are not adhering, basically. So there are 27 states with laws on the books that say women's sports are for women only, girls and women only. The Supreme Court case is about to kick off tomorrow relate to this. 23 states plus Washington, D.C., where we are sitting right now, allow boys to compete in girls' sports. And they say that is upholding Title IX, which is ridiculous. Title IX was the legislation in 1972 that promised women and girls equal opportunity in the education system, most famous for the sports aspect. They say they're upholding that because these boys who say they're girls are girls, so they deserve Title IX protections. It's so stupid. I can't even believe it. So So we have an executive order, which isn't law. And then you have, when I say it's complicated, think about how complicated the sports landscape is. Because you've got NCAA, you've got private club, you've got professional. They all have different governing bodies. Olympic, International Olympic. So after his executive order, a lot of the governing bodies did institute rules. The NCAA, the U.S. Olympic Committee, and now the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, says they are going to. We don't know what that's going to be yet. Okay? So that's why it's complicated and it's not done. And if you've been reading the papers, you see boys all over the country winning in girls' sports.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to these cases. 2 states, West Virginia and what's the other one? Idaho. West Virginia and Idaho, they have laws on the books saying no boys and girls sports. Well, 2 males in those states are challenging those laws. One is a grown male and one is a middle schooler, or was when this started, who's taken puberty blockers. So they are saying these laws are unfair. I deserve to be able to compete in girls sports. Big deal. This is a momentous occasion. We need to win. But if we win, all it means is those 27 states with laws in the books can keep them.
Interesting.
That's all it means. It means it goes to the states to decide, and those laws are not in violation of the Constitution. It also means the other 23 states are going to keep doing what they're doing. So we won't be done.
So what does that look like next then? I mean, obviously this is a continued fight to protect women in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. That's going to be an uphill battle in places like Colorado where you live that certainly has gone out of its way to oppress young women in so many different capacities over the past couple of years. Are you hoping that this turns into an act of Congress? Are we hoping that this becomes some sort of constitutional amendment? What's the next step in the fight here?
You wouldn't think we would have to work so hard to codify biology and material reality into law. I think there's a lot of things that need to happen. I think states need laws. We can talk about one that Colorado, we're trying to get an initiative on the ballot in Colorado. I think there needs to be federal legislation that says to receive protections from Title IX and, you know, protections for being a woman, you have to actually be a woman. It's so dumb.
Insane that we have to say it that simply.
I don't even know how to say it. So I think we need state by state and federal legislation. What I try to do at XXXY is change the cultural conversation because I think all this legislation, the politics, it's downstream from culture. And sadly, we lost that cultural battle. And we have to wrest it back with the full force it was taken from us because most people agree with us, left, right, and center. But they're too scared to say it out loud. But I feel like if I can help contribute to making it cool and normal to stand up and say, boys can't become girls, girls deserve their own sports and spaces, then the laws will flow from there.
Absolutely. The whole politics is downstream from culture reality that we've seen the left really champion on this issue so much throughout my lifetime. If you had asked me when I was 15 years old even, if any of this would have even been a part of our national conversation, I would have laughed in your face. I would have said, that's insane. Like, I can't even fathom the idea of that even becoming a part of our national conversation. And yet here we are where people are so afraid. They're afraid for their careers. They're afraid for their opportunities to do their sport in college, being recruited by professional organizations. You have done so much incredible work with XXXY in just changing the conversation. Just a couple weeks ago, we had Michaela Skinner, gymnast, on our show, which was so very fun, getting to talk about the changing landscape of professional athletes having the courage to speak out about this. Are you seeing any sport in particular really lead the way in this conversation?
Well, I just want to say one thing I think we have to wrap our arms around when we think, oh, we're making so much progress. There are fewer than 5 currently competing professional athletes who have said anything. Less than 5. I don't know how many thousands of professional female athletes there are. So we have work to do. Right? So a woman by the name of Elizabeth Eddy, she's a professional soccer player, Angel City FC. She wrote an op-ed about protecting women's soccer. Her teammates held a press conference to call her a bigot and a racist. I'm not sure.
Naturally.
Everything's racist. Rolls off the tongue. Sabalenka, the number 1 women's tennis player in the world, offhandedly said recently in an interview, I don't think it's fair for males to play in women's sports. And then who's my third? There's one more that has said something whose name is, Sophie Cunningham, offhandedly on her own podcast said that a team of really, really good boys middle school players would beat a WNBA team. Which is true. A testament, which is totally true. So if you think about it, we have only 3, wow. We have a long way to go.
That's so interesting to think about it that way because I feel like so many people say on social media, I'm just so tired of talking about this. If I see the amazing Riley Gaines talk about this one more time, it's like, okay, we've been there, done that. We get it. No men in women's sports. But when you put it in terms like that, especially in a culture that's trying so desperately to mainstream women's athletics, how many T-shirts have you seen over the past few years of everyone watches women's sports? Nobody's talking about this issue still.
They're afraid that they will lose their other contracts, endorsement deals, and they need them. You know, most women's female professional athletes don't make that much money. A professional WNBA player does not make that much money, so they make their money off of endorsements. They're afraid they're going to lose all their other endorsements. They're afraid their team will kick them off. I know Elizabeth Eddy was afraid of that. They're afraid they won't get signed with another team. Nobody wants it. So it's tough out there, but I think with a win here, which won't be announced till June, the decision of the Supreme Court, that could bolster people and they could feel more confident standing up and saying, the obvious, which is that women must have their own sports and spaces.
Well,
but I think we have a long. I think we have a long way to go. I hate to bum people out about.
No, I think it's important for us to understand that, actually, because the cultural aspect of this, even though it feels like we've already won in so many ways, has to be cemented in order to change the policy.
It feels like we won if you're in this like closed loop circle, which is probably your social and my social and what I read. But I'll tell you, I mean, I don't know if you can see this, I wear this everywhere in Colorado. And mostly it's fine, but I've definitely gotten into some difficult conversations with people, which I think is important. I have them. Or I even have people come up to me and they're like, ooh, controversial. Like they know it's a still really controversial thing to say out loud. Or I've had moms lean in and say, I agree with you. Are we allowed to say that now?
Wow. As a mom, how does that make you feel when other moms come up and say stuff like that?
I just, it's so much easier for me to sit here and like talk to you or to go on a TV show or to speak at the rally tomorrow than to have the one-on-one conversation. I find that a lot harder, but I think that's the work that needs to happen. And I tell people all the time who are a little bit afraid, if you put on the shirt or you put on the hat, it makes you have the conversation because somebody will come up to you. And I'm telling you 9 times out of 10, they're going to say that they agree with you and that they feel more confident now saying it out loud, which was like, that was my whole plan. It makes me really happy. So I think most people have the good sense to know that boys are stronger and faster. We all know that. And that if we want our daughters to have opportunity that sports provide, we need them to have single-sex sports. We just do.
Which people fought for decades over. I think we have forgotten that in the last 5 minutes in American history, that right now probably Ruth Bader Ginsburg is like rolling over in her grave over everything that's happening to erase legitimate women's equality. Us saying out loud biologically that men have bigger muscle mass or thicker bone density or typically are faster and stronger than women doesn't make them better than women. It just makes them different than women. And as a mom of a daughter now, especially, it's just so shocking to me that saying that out loud gets you labeled anti-feminist or anti-women, when in reality our daughters need us to fight for them now more than ever. And I'm just astounded that moms in particular have been very cowardice about all of this and kind of backed into the corner and quiet because they're afraid of the backlash.
I find it shocking every single day for the last 20 years of my life, Isabel, that parents will sell their kids down the river to avoid being called a bad name. That sounds a really horrible thing to say, but the first issue I ever spoke out on was abuse in the sport of gymnastics. And the people, including parents that came after me, whose kids were actually training under abusive coaches, to call me a liar and a grifter. And then during COVID, I kicked up some dust by advocating for open public schools. And look at what parents were willing to do during COVID to their own children. Mask 2-year-olds. I mean, you have a little one. She's not 2 yet. I'm telling you, that's when speech, that's when it all starts. And these kids are still speech delayed. They're developmentally delayed. They're emotionally and developmentally delayed. I don't know. It's real. I don't understand it. I would throw myself in front of a car for any of my 4 children. But somehow the belonging to the group of the lefty ideologues is more important than their own children.
Where do you think that came from? Really, it's been my lifetime that's become normalized. Certainly, I feel like the throw yourself in front of a car for your kids was the mentality my whole childhood, and now you've seen it change so dramatically.
It's a really good question. During COVID, I would sit and scratch my head and like pace in the house and say to my husband, like, why are people so horrible during this given time? And then, this sounds weird, but it made me feel better. I realized it wasn't this given time. People they will go with the herd. 70, 80% of the people most of the time across eras and geographies will do what they're being told and will go with the herd while thinking they're, standing apart from the crowd.
Yeah.
And there are ideologies across the eras that say the state and this ideology is more important than your family. I mean, that's what communism advocates for. They want that tie to the state to be greater than the tie to your own family. People turn their own families in. So in a sense, it's not really different than forever. It's human nature. And that's sad. It made me feel better, though.
Yeah,
I was like,
oddly it does. It's a weird comfort that
I was like,
this is just humanity.
Well, I was like, we're not uniquely awful. We're just like normal awful.
Back to fighting on offense for our daughters on the steps of the Supreme Court in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you guys about fighting on offense for our health, something that has hit me so much harder after becoming a mom. I have realized that every decision I make isn't just about me anymore. It's about showing up for my daughter Isla, being present for all of her milestones, and having the energy to keep up with her for decades to come. And that is a completely different kind of motivation. But here's the problem. Our healthcare system is built to be reactive. You wait until something's wrong and then you try to fix it. So when you want to take a proactive approach, it can be really hard to know where to even start. That's exactly why I have been partnering with our friends at Jevity. They make proactive health easier than ever. Jevity offers different membership tiers so that you can choose what fits your needs. You get comprehensive at-home blood draws that test over 100 different health markers, way beyond what your standard checkup ever covers. Then personalized health plans with custom supplement protocols, access to functional longevity specialists for ongoing guidance, plus discounts on supplements and specialty testing. This whole process was so easy. They sent a phlebotomist to my house. A few minutes later, they had tons of vials of blood to work with to understand everything going on in my body. And within like 2 or 3 days, I had a massive roadmap for everything I needed to know that was going on in my body that I needed to improve upon, that already was functioning really well. They even gave me a biological age, which is 18 for the record. So your girl is living really well. I'm on top of the world hearing that news. It is so easy, and I could not recommend this process to everybody enough. Jevity is now available to you in 47 different states across the country. So if you are ready to be there for the people that you love, not just today, but for decades to come, you guys can use code Isabel at the link in today's show notes for 20% off, because investing in your health now means so much more time with the people who matter the most.
Speaking of awful, I'm curious to pick your brain a little bit on why you decided to get into advocacy. You mentioned you were mostly trying to stand up for women who were being abused in the gymnastics world. In our conversation we had a few months ago with Michaela Skinner, it was really interesting for me to unpack this a bit, watching the similarity between this men and women's sports conversation and the Athlete A, Larry Nassar conversation, because so much of it is based in protecting women from sexual promiscuity and from those trying to take advantage of them, particularly men. How did that get started for you, and what are you seeing in terms of that parallel now? Are these issues related?
I do think so. I mean, so the whole reason, I never like thought of myself as any sort of, activist, or I worked in the business world, I'm a business person. I love building brands. Like, that's what I like. But in 2008, when my book came out called Chalked Up, I was close to 40 at that time. And I was 20 years out of gymnastics and still really struggling with the abuse. And so for me, it was just a very personal decision to try to make sense of why at 40, as a successful person, was I still dealing with cripplingly low self-esteem, anxiety, depression. I didn't understand. It didn't make sense because my life on paper looked really good, And I went back to my gymnastics training and how emotionally and physically abusive it was. And I wrote the book like by myself in a room, thinking it might not get published, but if it did, maybe it would help one girl know that she was worth it, know that she didn't deserve that. And it did get published. So that was sort of the start of it. And, all I wanted was for these young girls and their parents to know that that's not tough training, that's abuse. And you don't have to put up with it. You're worth more than that. And you may think you can endure it to get this thing that you want that's being held out as the promise, the Olympic team, the whatever. But there's another way. There's a better way that isn't soul destroying. And if we have to ruin girls for them to be able to get on that Olympic team, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So I got attacked for that, believe it or not. I mean, this was 2008. It was before Me Too. And it was like I was talking about specific men doing terrible things. And they were men that were very well respected in the gymnastics world and the Olympic movement. You weren't supposed to say that. So I guess the way that it is related to this issue now with males and women's sports is we are protecting the feelings, the reputations of men and selling young girls down the river. That's the commonality. And it's like, it's got a new face because the guy's wearing a dress and says he's a woman. It's the same thing though, Isabel. It's the same thing. Boys count more than girls. The men, what they want, their feelings, their feeling that they are girls counts more than this little girl who has been training her butt off to make the team. It's the same. It's the misogyny as old as time.
Yeah. We just call it something prettier because it looks a little bit different these days, which is so shocking, I think, for people to realize that we've really just dressed the pig up in a different dress and thrown some lipstick on it, but it's the same thing, right? Even down to men exposing themselves to young girls in bathrooms and in locker rooms.
That's right.
But I think most moms hear this and it's so shocking and it's so jarring that they don't realize it's probably happening to their daughter in some capacity, whether that's at their public school, getting ready for PE class, or in their club sport, or trying to train for their ultimate dream of becoming an Olympian. So the question, I guess, then is what do we do about it? Obviously, we're waiting on this Supreme Court case to confirm that men are not women and that women deserve their own spaces. But what can the average young mom listening to this, wanting to protect her daughter, do to fight back?
Well, one quick point I just want to make. Even if your daughter isn't being challenged by a boy to make the team, she feels in the culture that she's not supposed to stand up for herself. And isn't this exactly the opposite of what we've wanted to teach our daughters?
Yeah.
You know, my generation, your generation, and now your daughters. We don't want that's what that's the message they're being sent. The message our daughters are being sent is be quiet, let him win. So that has repercussions well beyond sport. To them growing up, saying, you don't matter, he matters more. So just be quiet. Sit down and be quiet. So when you say our daughters are being affected, to me, that's so pernicious.
Yeah.
Like, even if there's not a boy on their team, they're getting that message that they don't matter as much as these boys that want to be girls. And that's really problematic. All girls are affected. So I think what we do is you just have to stop being quiet. I really think those conversations on the ground with your neighbor, with the mom on your daughter's soccer team, they matter. And you can have it, you can stand your ground, and you can be factual, but they're counting on us all being quiet. That's how they manufacture this consensus. The minority, they are not the majority, these people that think boys are girls if they just say so. And so that's the most important thing, I think. Speak out to your friends and neighbors. Go to the school board meeting. Tell the coach, no, there shouldn't be a boy on this team. Have the conversations in your own community. I think that's what moves the needle more than anything.
And sometimes that's escalating into actual policy changes, which I know you are fighting for really hard in Colorado. Thank you, by the way, as a Coloradan, continuing to fight in our beautiful home for truth and for our daughters. What are you doing right now? And tell us a little bit more about this ballot initiative.
Yeah, so I'm the chairperson for a ballot initiative in Colorado to protect girls' sports. Like I said, we need state laws, we need federal laws. So I'm trying to make it right in my home, where I live now, Colorado. We need 120,000 signatures to get the initiative on the ballot. We're very close. We have 2 more months to get it done. We've got ballot signing initiatives all around the state. I'm going to be hosting one at Colorado Christian University on the 14th this week. So I guess tomorrow by the time this airs. And another one on January 22nd. You can find all of that information on my social media. I really honestly believe if we get enough signatures to get this on the ballot and people get to vote,
totally.
They're going to vote to protect women's sports. So help us get the signatures in your state and my state.
And for
we're
those
really close.
Yeah, for those trying to do something like this in their own backyard too. How did you get started in resurrecting a ballot initiative? How can other people get it on the ballot in their own state?
That's such a good question. So Washington State also just got the signatures to get it on the ballot. I'm sorry, if you can do it in Washington State.
There's no more excuses. Yeah.
Come on, people, get it done. You can do it in California. That's a good question. I mean, I think you need to find the coalition. You do need some funding because you got to get out there and you got to get people to circulate the petitions and you got to get the signatures. But you can do it. I don't know. We have 3 ballot initiatives. So one is protecting girls' sports. One is no surgeries for minors.
Huge. So important.
Gender affirming surgeries for minors.
You know, the administration has started calling it sex rejecting. And I
like
love
it.
this because that's
like
literally
this.
what it is,
Yeah.
actually.
I
You're just
know.
rejecting your biology. There's nothing affirming about it.
I know.
So I'm going to start jumping in on that.
I know. I noticed that. It's good. And we need to counter their terrible language with better language because it is not affirming. It is rejecting. And then the third ballot initiative is stricter penalties for sex traffickers, child sex traffickers. So I got together with 2 other people who are each experts in those areas, and we just, filed the paperwork to get it done. And we are partnering with churches and other religious organizations to gather signatures. People are out at Safeway on the weekends. I mean, it's amazing. It's work. You got to pound the pavement.
But ultimately, it makes a difference.
If we can do it in Colorado, and we hopefully will, and I'm sorry, if they can do it in Washington State.
There are no excuses for the rest of you, everybody.
We need a brave Californian to get it done there.
I'm sure we have some brave Californians listening to this today.
Even in California, 70% of voters agree.
Yep. This is like a 90-10 issue, not a 99-1 issue, really, if you ask most people in our country.
I think
and yet the courage aspect is so, so important, which is why I'm so moved by what you're doing at XXXY. Can you tell us what might be next for you guys? We have the Olympics this year. Obviously, this continued fight with the Supreme Court and ballot initiatives. What can we expect from your amazing organization?
We have a lot more product coming. And we are a business. Like, we're not a nonprofit. We're like a real business. We want people to have an option that isn't insane and woke. And a lot of people don't want to buy Nike anymore. And they don't want to buy brands that don't stand up for women but pretend to. That's what's, people are frustrated with. So we want to give them an option. That's my background. I spent 23 years at Levi's. So we've got a lot of new product coming. I'll be speaking tomorrow on the steps of the Supreme Court. We've got a big week this week. We'll have a lot to say about the Olympics. We're still hoping. So the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, said they were going to protect women's sports, but we still don't know how. They haven't said how.
And we're like weeks away from the next Olympics.
What we need is testing for sex. That is the only way. It's a cheek swab. The other side will tell you, that's genital checks, it's invasive. That's not true. All you need to do is spit in a cup. And these athletes are already drug tested at every game. So sex testing happens once in your career because your sex doesn't change. And that's it and all they do. So that's what we're hoping they announce because it really is the only actual way to protect the women's category because IDs can be changed.
Yep, of course they can. Yeah.
So we're going to continue fighting for that. We're going to continue to put great product in the market. We're going to continue to hopefully encourage more pro athletes to speak out because I think that'll be a real turning point as we get more and more professional athletes and Olympic athletes speaking out.
Absolutely. Do you have, in closing, a message for some of those athletes out there that want to say something, they want to stand up for women, but they're just unsure how to dip their toe into the water and jump in?
Just say it. Men can't be women. Women deserve their own sports and spaces. It's that simple. I know it's scary. Most people agree with you. Do it anyway. You'll be able to look yourself in the mirror.
I love that. Very powerful. Looking yourself in the mirror, being proud of what your legacy is. I'm so grateful that there are women out there like you making sure that legacy is cemented for this next generation. And I can't wait tomorrow to join you on the steps of the Supreme Court and hear everything you have to say to our SCOTUS justices. Awesome. Jen Sey, thank you so much. So appreciate you. And can't wait to see you back in Colorado sometime soon, too.
Thank you, Isabel. Thanks for having me.
Amazing rally today. You can tell it's really loud because there's a massive pro-trans kids rally happening right next to us that's trying to drown out the amazing work that these speakers, these athletes, these advocates are doing here to protect women's sports and to protect our daughters. If you guys are looking to continue following this issue, Alliance Defending Freedom is doing amazing legal work to protect women's spaces. Go check them out. And we will be sure to be following the Supreme Court's announcements very, very closely for announcements about how they're deciding these two cases from West Virginia and Idaho. We will never stop fighting for our daughters. We will never stop fighting for women's sports. And I'm so excited to see people out here showing their support for that here in DC today.
What was it like, Merlin, to be alone with God?
Is that who you think I was alone with?
Merlin,
I knew your father. I am yet convinced that he was not of this world.
All men know of the great Taliesin.
Who am I, Father, that the gods should war for my soul?
Princess Garrus, savior of our people.
I know what the bull god offered you. I was offered the same.
And?
There is a new power at work in the world. I've seen it. A god who sacrifices what he loves for us.
We are each given only one life, Singer.
No. We're given another. I learned of Yezu the Christ, and I have become his follower.
He's waiting on a miracle, and I think you can give him one.
Trust in Yezu. He is the only hope for men like us.
Fate of Britain never rests in the hands of the great light.
Great light, great darkness. Such things mattered to me then.
What matters to you now, Mistress of Lies?
You, nephew.
The sword of a high king.
How many lives must be lost before you accept the power you were born to wield? So clinging to the promises of a god who has abandoned you.
I cannot take up that sword again.
You know what you must do.
Great light, forgive me.
The time has come to be reborn.